welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And today's episode, your special guest is me. You guys get to spend the next few minutes with me talking about living a life where you get to ditch stress and overwhelm and you get to live with intent and purpose, embracing what you love doing. All right, why am I an expert in that? Because if you don't know my story, this is what I did. After almost a 20-year career in finance, in the August of 2016, I resigned my finance position and I started Rebellious. Why did I call it Rebellious? Because pretty much everybody told me that I am crazy to keep away the title of a finance director and become a Pilates teacher. So, rebellious. Rebellious is about stepping into who you are. Rebellious is about connecting to the true you, to authentic you, and going after your purpose and living life from a standpoint of fulfillment and calm and happiness and joy. And let's talk a little bit about that. So perhaps you are one of those people who has made it, who has created that success equation for yourself. You've got the title, you've got the house, you've got the car, and from the outside, life looks to be pretty good. However, behind the scenes, you are dealing with high levels of stress, perhaps anxiety, perhaps you can't sleep, perhaps you're having digestive issues, and there is just that emptiness that you can't explain because, really, according to what defines success into our society, you are very successful. But maybe your neck hurts, maybe your shoulders are really tight. You touch them and you're like, oh, a little massage feels so amazing. Maybe your back is feeling tight. Maybe you love to play golf and you go on the golf course and your swing is not so good. Your back is achy after you play. Maybe you love to run and your knees are achy after you run. Or perhaps you just had surgery and your body is just not what it used to be. And you're just kind of feeling like a little bit falling apart. And you're like, geez, Louise, I'm not that old. I still want to embrace life and live life. And what is missing? So let me tell you a little bit more about my history. I used to be that person who is successful by the societal standards. I did really well in studying in high school and undergraduate degree in finance, graduate degree in finance, always highest honors, salutatorian in high school. You guys, I had my first anxiety attack when I was in high school and I collapsed on the bathroom floor because of exhaustion. And they had to call the ambulance. And I was that kid from a country most people have never heard about, just so you know, Bulgaria, Eastern Europe. And that weird kid. And now it was that kid who collapsed on the bathroom floor. And they had, an ambulance has come. They make a lot of noise and they bring a lot of attention. And I was a teenager. So the combo was just like not pretty all around. But I was a very driven student. I was a big time perfectionist from a young age, a big time control freak from a young age. And I would literally stay up late and do translation to understand the lessons. And, anyways, and that drove my health kind of like downhill from a young age. However, I simply assumed that being exhausted and tired and anxious and highly stressed was part of that success equation. So as I went through my corporate career, that was kind of the norm. Anxiety attacks. I do remember my last anxiety attack when my family freaked out, even though I knew what it was, and they called the fire department. And I vividly remember one of the firemen sitting next to me where I'm gasping for air. If you've never had an anxiety attack, it's just, for me, it felt like hyperventilating and you can't take a deep breath and you kind of everything blurs out. And he was talking to me and he was like, listen, you either gotta get it together or we'll have to resuscitate you. I mean, just Think about that, you guys. It's actually making me emotional right now. But I was successful. I had the title, I was working my ass off. I had a family at that point of time. And I truly didn't have the management system of or the tool set to manage my skills. Mind you, I was into fitness from a very young age. And my fitness was the traditional definition of fitness, where I was married to my heart rate monitor and I had to hit a certain heart rate and I had to burn a certain number of calories and my intensity had to be sucked and I had to be drenched in sweat. And oh my gosh, what I have learned since then is that if you're already on overdrive and you're already highly stressed and anxious, such a workout is actually detrimental to your health. But I didn't know any better. So I was literally pouring oil on top of a fire, which was blasting. So, what's the solution? What the solution for me was, I discovered Pilates, and those Pilates sessions were very different than the traditional gym workout I was used to. I was actually teaching. In what ways? Well, it was slow. I had to think about how I'm moving. I had to think about which muscle groups I am engaging. And it was an hour where I didn't have time to think about what's for dinner, what do I have to work on once I get back home, or what the schedule is for tomorrow, and so forth. But it was an hour just for me. An hour where I had the opportunity to connect body and mind. And it's actually why I credit those Pilates sessions to me connecting to my intuition and saying, is this what you really want? Connecting to that intuition that told me run and go after what you want. You guys, I have been talking about having my own fitness studio since about my 20s. And I was close to my 40s when I resigned and I stepped into, you know what, this feels right. This feels in alignment to me. I'm not saying that's what your solution is. I'm just saying you connect to your intuition and you figure out what you want. Clarity, a huge one, you guys. It is hard to get clarity when you're running, when you're rushing, when you're snappy, when you're irritable, and also when you're running from a standpoint of fear. What if I lose my job? What if I get laid off? What if I'm not a good parent? What if my relationship falls apart? I mean, just like this in here, those of you who are listening to the audio, I am pointing to my head. It's just a non-stop mess. It just keeps going, and you don't know how to shut it down. You get in bed, you're tired, you're exhausted, and it just keeps going and going and going. And there's really not a problem solution type of conversation going in there. It's more like fear-based freaking out, stress, anxiousness. You don't know how you're going to manage your time. And that is where slowing down, interconnecting to ourselves. I love to say interconnect to your heartbeat because that is where we find clarity. And when we are running on that hamster wheel, it is really challenging to find that clarity. So I ask you, what are the tool sets that you have to slow down? And I will tell you, as I call myself recovering type A and perfectionist and control freak, it is not easy to slow down because the minute you slow down, that is what I have to coach a lot of my clients because we're doing something that doesn't feel like an exercise. It doesn't get your heart rate up. It doesn't burn your muscles, and you're just sitting there and breathing. And in the beginning, it's very uncomfortable to think, oh my gosh, I'm wasting my time and I'm spending all of this money for this. Yes, because you know what? That is what helps you to step into your power and slowing down. So the fitness routine that I teach nowadays, I don't even like to call it fitness, I call it movement, is so different than what I used to teach before. Why? Because I start building on alignment. And I start building on the physical alignment. Are you physically aligned? Is your box intact? You have shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip. Are you in alignment? Is your pelvis nice and even, or is one hip coming up more than the other? Is your pelvis tucked, or are you properly stacked? That's where we start. Then we start with, all right, let's see when you move, what happens with that alignment? Are you able to maintain it, or does it all fall apart? I'll tell you, I see a lot of people in pain, and for most of them, the alignment falls apart. Then let's look at which muscles fire up. Are you firing up properly when you move? Again, most people come to me for pain, and the answer to that question is no. There are a lot of compensations that come up. And why do those compensations happen? One, you could be born with it, small percent of people. Two, you have poor patterns throughout your day. What am I talking about? The way you sit, the way you slouch, the way maybe you travel a lot and you sit on airplanes, or you drive a lot and you're slouching the car. Maybe you're constantly leaning forward and your neck is hurting because you have alternated the proper alignment of your cervical spine, your neck. Or perhaps you've had an injury, perhaps you've had a fall and you have not reestablished your alignment post surgery, post injury. Or perhaps you're doing something that's one-sided, such as playing tennis or playing golf, or you're a dentist and you're constantly like turned to the side. So one side is really developed and the other side is weak, and there is unevenness between the two sides. So I help you reestablish that equilibrium. And I use Pilates is a big chunk of what I do. I use fascia release exercises. I use functional movement from our prior experience in fitness. It's a mishmash of fitness modalities. And then on top of that, I integrate mindset coaching, because what you see, for example, in a way a type A body moves, you can tell from the way somebody moves whether they're a perfectionist, whether they're a control freak. You can see how they get frustrated with themselves. The way we move gives away a lot about ourselves. The way you show up for your sessions tells a lot about yourself and where prioritization comes into play for you. And that is the big one, I'll tell you guys. Especially, I do have to say, women, moms, are your priorities in order? And there is guilt associated with that. There is uneasiness about putting yourself on top of the priority list, and you say, this is where I start. And then the other big thing I help with the mindfulness is when you say, I really want to do this, but I can't, and you don't even give yourself the opportunity to explore the I can version. We go into those limiting beliefs of why you cannot. Because let me tell you guys something. Most of those are bullshit. Most of the time, when you say, I don't have time for self-care, I will call you out. That is bullshit. We all have the same 24/7 in the day. And we all have, you guys get this, control over our schedules and our prioritizations. Boundaries. Most people don't know boundaries. Boundaries can be uncomfortable. I teach people about boundaries. You know what, guys? I let clients go. If you don't do the work, if you don't show up for yourself, I can teach you everything that I know, everything that changes people's life, everything that has changed my life. But if you don't show up for yourself, if you want to make excuses, it doesn't work. So I challenge you today. I ask you, where are you on your priority list? What does your tool set look like to calm yourself down, to gain clarity? How does your body feel? The body is very telling. Yes, you could have something physical that's going on. Maybe you are an athlete and your body doesn't feel keen. Your performance cannot increase. That is your body telling you something is off. And you know what? Your body could be telling you something is off, not only for physical reasons. If you're misaligned with who you are, and if you're living a life of shoots and musts and making other people happy, guess what? Your body will start speaking to you, not immediately, but over time. Do you ever do something and you have a gut feeling of like, oh, that just doesn't feel right, but you do it anyway because of the fear, of the paycheck, of whatever, the relationships, you're trying to make somebody happy and you're worried of judgments. You guys, that is not how life has to be. And I share all of this with you because everything I just shared with you, the way I transform my life is exactly what I just spoke about. It's about slowing down, starting with alignment, starting with self-awareness, starting with that self-awareness of how you move, how you think, and then taking it to the next level, which in the case of fitness, that's where most traditional programs start. They skip the alignment, they skip the awareness, they skip the mind body connection, they skip the compensations, and they just put you into that high intensity, usually, state where you build. Living life, movement, the goal of it is flow, where you flow in alignment with yourself, when you're self aware, when you check in with yourself, when you live life the way you want to, what feels right for you, regardless of what others have to say. Again, I started with rebellious. That's what rebellious is all about. It's all about staying true to yourself and building the life that's in alignment with you, regardless of what society says. And that, guys, is how I redefine the success equation. Because you know what? Yes, you can have that beautiful home. You can have that awesome, perhaps, sports car. You can have a beautiful relationship with your family, with your friends, with your boss. And you can do what you love and do all of that with a body which is strong, with a beautiful toe posture, with confidence, with calm, with feeling good, with feeling purposeful and intentional and fulfilled. Instead of running yourself down into the ground, rushing on that hamster wheel of self-repeat, lacking intention, spinning out of control with stress and anxiety. Do you guys feel the difference of the two? Well, that, my rebels, is the Angelova Method. I am so excited to share that with you. If you have read my book, Mind and Body, you guys know that the first chapter finishes with the introduction of the Angelova Method. And you guys, that was a couple of years ago. Ta-da, here it is, the Angelova Method, helping you live your best life, feeling good with a strong body and a calm mind, redefining the success equation to include that, to include calm and peace and feeling good. And I am super excited to also share with you guys that there is an opportunity, an incredible opportunity to experience the Angelova Method hands-on, to do the work. And you guys, the work can be uncomfortable, not can be, is uncomfortable. Because you know what? You gotta let go of what does not serve you. You gotta let go of those movement patterns that reinforce pain. You gotta let go of those things in your life which are not in alignment with who you are. And yes, sometimes it's relationships. Yes, sometimes it's a job. Yes, sometimes it's standing up for yourself. And I'm there, you guys, to hold your hand and to be that person who believes in you, that says, yes, you've got that. And you can do it despite the fear, despite the discomfort, been there, done that, continuously doing it. It becomes an euphoric feeling. All right, you guys ready? The opportunity is the upcoming Bali retreat, Ubud Bali, April 9th through April 16th. You get the opportunity to experience the Angelova Method every single day. Movement work, mindset work, in a beautiful setting. Why is that important and why Bali? Bali has incredible healing energy. Bali is actually an energy vortex, especially Ubud where we will be. That is super important. We have a private villa in the middle of rice field. Why is that important? Because that is an opportunity for you to feel safe, to feel in place. Because once again, it's kind of like going on the dark side. It's taking that mirror and flipping it and looking into it and you're saying, crap, I've got to take ownership of all that and let it go and make some different choices and take some different actions. And you've got a community of people We're there for the same purpose. And you get to be raw, and you get to be vulnerable. And yes, it is tiring, but oh my gosh, you will come back a different person with a different awareness of where you are. Where is that gap between where you are and where you want to go? With clarity, we talked about clarity. You will feel the change in your body. You will feel the change in your mind. You will be empowered to take your life to the next step. We're going to have curated activities to get you to experience life. We're going to have a day of cleansing, which I did last year when I traveled to Bali. We're going to visit a temple. We're going to hike up a mountain, a volcano to see the sunrise. It is going to be an experience of a lifetime, and I invite you to join me. If you got this trip is, let me make it clear, is not for everybody. This is for those of you who are ready to climb your power back, to get uncomfortable and say, enough is enough. I'm done with this. Let's go. So if you're that person, I would love to talk to you. Let's see if that is the right solution for you. Let's talk if the Angelova Method is a solution to resolving your aches and pains and that mind that doesn't shut up. And let's help you redefine your success equation to where you get to live the life that you want. How does that sound, guys? I am so excited about this. You guys, this is speaking of alignment. Oh my gosh. Life takes you on this journey, and if you listen, if you tune in, if you're willing to step outside your comfort zone, because let me tell you guys, my journey, and I'm also, one thing you know about me is when we do these events, I'm very vulnerable. I share a lot of personal stories. I have an example from pretty much a lot of what most people have going on. And I share that with you so that you know I'm not just sitting here and speaking to you from like I've read it in a book and I'm teaching it to you. No, I live it every single freaking day. And you know why I step outside of my comfort zone? Because I refuse to live a mediocre life. I want to live an extraordinary life. I embrace my rebellious, and that's a choice. And I invite you to make that choice. All right, wrapping it up. Any questions, let me know. You will have a personal question. If right now this feels like, oh my gosh, that is me, I'm so intrigued, reach out, you guys. I am there to help you, support you. I get my fuel from helping people and seeing others change their life. I mean, that is like, for me, that makes my day. And I want you to be the next success story. How does that sound? Yeah. All right. Send you lots of love. Stay rebellious. Well, I was going to say be good, but sometimes being rebellious doesn't fall into the be good norm. So be rebellious. All right. I'll see you next time. Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.